So my name is Christy, and when I discovered floating, I was immediately hooked on the healing and the good that it did for helping with my chronic pain from some health problems that I have. My doctor had told me at 50 years old, if I didn't get my stress levels under control, I wasn't going to make my next birthday. So after a year and a half of floating every week and making it my project, my time, it was the #1 self-care activity that I did for myself.
So my name is Matt, and I originally started floating probably about 6 years ago. At that time in my life, I was kind of starting to experiment a little bit with meditation and was having trouble being consistent, and I wanted to find something that was gonna essentially help me just go a little deeper into meditation. And so I decided to give it a shot, and to be honest, my first float experience was a little weird. I had a hard time really getting used to the environment, and it just took me a little while to kind of get my brain to shut off, but something happened in the last 15 minutes where I really kind of found the pocket. So I decided to kind of give it a shot again, and it was really on my third float. I just found this magical spot. And fast forward to today, 6 years later, I've probably floated over 200 times, I'd say. And for me, really what floating's become is a way for me to just manage my stress levels. When I do it more consistently, I just find that things in my life flow a lot easier. I'm just a happier and healthier person. And I really just can't say nothing but great things. And if you're out there thinking about trying it, I highly recommend doing it. And make sure you do it more than once, because if you're anything like me, it's going to take you a little time to get used to it. You might as well see if it's going to change your life if you're going to try floating.
Misskwame, first tried floating 3 years ago. Reason being, as a current fitness enthusiast, former athlete, I'm always looking for ways to improve my recovery. And floating happened to be a modality that I wanted to try. And from that point on, I fell in love with it. My first floating experience was very unique. Just getting used to no lights for an hour. You're floating there by yourself. Just a unique experience, but eye-opening as well. Yeah, I've been floating at least for 3 years now. Long-term benefits definitely helps to improve my recovery when it comes to any sort of back SI injuries, SI tweaks, which I've experienced over the last few years. But the most benefit has been just faster recovery. That's worked the best for me, and I do various type of modalities.
I'm Janet, and I first tried floating, I'd say about 4 years ago. And I was told about floating, was intrigued by it, sounded interesting. The reason why I wanted to try it was I had some muscle pain around my hips. And I was told that if I tried floating, it would relax my muscles a little bit better. So I was intrigued by what it could possibly do for me. My first float experience wasn't what I thought it would be. I was told that I can't say so many different things could happen, but one of two things could happen. You could either fall completely asleep and get a deep, relaxing sleep, or you would just float there and your mind would be wandering, and it would be just going through all the list of things that you have to do, and you'd get creative. And it was an experience that you don't normally have outside of floating. So I can't say I had either one of those because I was just, I don't know, I guess I was looking for those two experiences to happen, and it didn't happen for me. I didn't go right to sleep. I really wanted to sleep because I needed to sleep, but it just didn't happen. But that didn't mean that I wasn't going to try it again. I've been floating, well, like I said, for about 4 years. I want to say well over 15 floats, and the benefits, I loved coming to float before I get a massage, because the magnesium, the salt water just relaxes everything. And so if I come in before I go for my my deep tissue massage, the massage therapist is able to get in a little bit further to the muscles that need to be touched at that time. So it definitely does relax me, and it is very beneficial for me. So I would tell somebody that would be interested in floating to definitely try it, and don't stop at one. At least go three floats, maybe more, because everybody's different. So it's going to affect everybody differently. So I would say at least try it. I think you're going to like it.
My name is Dan, and I first tried floating in 2012, and it came on the recommendation from a friend who knew that I was looking to kind of deepen my meditation practice and connection with myself, and it was a time period where I was working on that. And back then there weren't a lot of float studios, so my first experience was at a guy's house in his second bedroom of his condo, and he had built out a tank himself. And I didn't know that going into this session. I thought I was going to a business, so it was kind of an odd experience. And so I went in and I didn't have any expectations, and I had an amazing float. And I think part of the process for me was not having expectations going in gave me this really insightful experience where I was able to kind of understand the value of what floating was going to have for me. And then I went back the following week and I had a terrible float. And my expectations were through the roof, and so that was kind of when I started to recognize the value of what floating is for me, and how reflective it is of my expectations and what I work for, what I work towards. So I floated, I probably couldn't tell you the total number. It's been consistently inconsistent over the past 8 years, but I'd say a few hundred times for sure. And for me, the biggest benefit is when I am consistent in my practice in floating, life tends to move easier. And for me, when I lose it, I can see it and feel it. And every time it takes a period of time for me to kind of get back into the tank. And as soon as I do, so why haven't I been doing this whole time? And things tend to kind of move a little bit easier for me. I tend to feel a lot better physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually sometimes for me. For someone that's curious about floating, I would really recommend that they give it a shot. And I would recommend that they try it 2 to 3 times. Most tanks nowadays have lighting and they have audio. So one thing that I've seen is that for individuals that have a lot of concerns about the idea of really being with only themselves and nothing else, the lighting and or the audio tend to help. So if someone's really concerned, I would say maybe try a little bit of music and turn the lights off, and then in your next session maybe try and turn the music off and see how you do with yourself for a while, and see if you can build up to really having a sensory deprivation experience.